whatever title I've named this tonight, you're not going to know because it's on YouTube.
What are we paid for?
No, basically the title is just not appropriate. But like yesterday, it was like the most exciting archaeology ever found on the planet ever, and there were people coming on YouTube going, "What's this? What's this?"
You might get a negative reputation there if you're not careful.
Oh yeah, you should go on my channel. There's this woman who's street singing in Cardiff, right? A Chinese woman trying to sing English songs, and there's people, and I'm putting all the videos up there, and people are going, "What the hell is this?" And I said, "She's got the confidence to stand in the street and sing, so that can't be bad."
Good for her, yeah.
Good for her, I thought. You know, you can criticize her, but you're not going out doing it. So, right. Anyway, we're all flowing. We're all flowing. By the way, Andy, doesn't Will look a bit like Pete?
Yes.
Don't worry about it, Will.
Doesn't look like Pete.
He does. Pete passed away. Pete passed away around this time last year.
Yeah.
Oh,
lovely Pete. Yeah.
Miss Pete.
Yes, do miss Pete.
We miss Pete the meat.
Well, Will can be our new Pete.
well, he's not our new John, that's for sure.
No.
Thank God for that.
Hey, hang on a minute, that's just really nasty. Right, Andy, anything?
Honest. Yeah, I'm going to blow it for everybody on our side. We had an earthquake.
Oh, we did.
Oh, that's just not on. It's unacceptable. That's racist.
Well, that's what I thought. I mean, I was absolutely horrified because I thought part of the building had collapsed.
So did I.
Actually, we ran around checking the building, went outside checking around, then found other people outside doing the same thing and thought, oh, it was an earthquake. But,
it was a colossal bang.
It was, yeah. It wasn't a rumbly one and nothing was swaying around like the last one. It just was a big bang as if something had hit the house. Yeah.
Some people slept through it amazingly.
I did. Wow. I slept through it.
Oh, well, that's because Drina was cuddled up to me. That's why.
Did you sleep through it? They're doing free hearing aid tests at Boots.
Pardon?
Drina? How could anybody sleep through that? It was
I didn't hear it or notice it.
I think it depends on whereabouts, what sort of strata of rock your house was on. Yeah. I heard of a few other people who didn't really notice it either. So
it was like a sonic boom.
Oh, it was, yeah. I mean, my floors were vibrating, everything. That's why I literally thought the end of the building had fallen off.
Yeah.
Can I just make a quick observation, right? Why didn't I hear about this in the news?
Oh, it was all over the news.
It was in the news.
3.4 centered just off Silverdale.
It was on the national news.
Yeah.
Which is quite big, 3.4 for us.
And on the news, it just kept showing somebody's dogs jumping out of their basket.
That came on over and over, didn't it, the dogs?
Well, nothing fell down or got broken, so we can't really show damage. Can you? All the emergency services collected at Carnforth at Aldi's in the car park because they thought there might be something serious going on.
Gosh.
Because so many people were reporting a loud explosion.
Yeah.
But they couldn't find anything.
I've never known it bang like that before.
No, I've not known it do that. I've been in a couple of earthquakes, like bigger ones than that, and they don't bang like. Those didn't bang like that. But it just depends how the earth moves, because you've got your two plates. They slide underneath each other, over each other, or that way, and that creates that rumbling. But they can just go like that, and that's the jump that makes the big bang. So.
Ooh.
But it was quite close to the surface, this one, apparently, as well, so which is why it sounded louder.
It was the talk of the town, wasn't it?
Oh,
hang on, Arnside's a village.
Well, it used to be a town, but it's all fallen down in the earthquake. Yeah.
I don't know why people call it as a village, just like a little miniature town, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't. How do you become a town? I don't know. I know.
Arnside is, for me, I thought it was a town. I really do.
Yeah, so it is a village officially, but I don't know how you define the two.
Is it by population?
No. There's a town in Wales which has got a population of 1,000 people.
I suppose you need a town hall, don't you? So If we build a town hall, we could be a town then.
Oh, that's right.
There's a place in West Wales called St David's. The only reason why they call it a
City.
city is because there's a brothel there. But
I always used to think, oh well, cities had to have cathedrals, but Lancaster has been a city for a very long time and didn't have a cathedral until fairly recently.
And Preston, I think Preston's a city, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
It's a new one, yes. I think
Yes, it's recent. Yeah.
Coventry ceased to be a city, didn't it? There's a joke there. Anyway, everyone's gone quiet. Right, anything else? Anything else, Andy?
Nothing archaeological, no, sorry.
Okay, David.
No, sorry.
Anne.
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay, Drina.
No.
Right, and Margaret.
Well, lad, you don't need to do the Aztecs and your Christmas thing now, because I saw a brilliant program about the Aztecs last night.
The civilization, yeah.
Hang on, it's not all about you, love. It's really not.
It was really good. All about Montezuma and Cortez. It was fantastic.
Watch that. I watched the first one in that series. I haven't seen the other ones yet. So
What if I dress up as Montezuma with feathers and put oils
Hey,
all
yeah.
Oh,
over
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, well,
Yes, please.
could be
You
yourself.
should just do that anyway.
God, please help me. Right.
Is it blowing a hoolie down your way, Carl?
It's been really bad. Do you know? I was saying to Drina earlier on, right? This building here is on stilts, right? And she said, "Where are the sheep?" And I said, "They're underneath here." And she said, "All right." And I said, "Well, the main problem with buildings in Britain is that they're not on stilts, because you get damp, you get flooding, right? And places like Japan, places like Switzerland, realize that you don't get damp and flooding because it's on stilts. But you know, and basically it's brilliant when things are on stilts, because you can put things underneath it, like a whole flock of sheep.
Yeah, well, keep you warm. Good idea.
Yes.
Or a flock of seagulls, but that's another experience.
Well, that'd be messy. Yeah.
I had the turkey in here earlier on. I got to mention a turkey because David loves baldric, and I love baldric. Baldric was in here, right, and it was just like he comes in here to finish the cat food, and it's like and there he is, and he's got little snood. So baldric was in here earlier on. Oh, can I tell you a little story, right? You're never going to believe this, right? You're never going to believe this. If anyone watches my YouTube stuff, they will know of a miracle that happened yesterday, right? There was a chicken, right? There was a chicken that was basically on the pathway dead, right? And I just thought, oh my God, how did this happen, right? It was just dead, right? And I just picked it up, right? This must have happened within a couple of minutes. I picked it up. I gave it mouth to beak, breathing, right? Rubbed its stomach, right? Did a bit more of that. And I put him on my chair, right? It was limp. The body was solid. It was limp, right? I put it on my chair, went to the car, got back, and there was a chicken running around.
Excellent.
My life.
Well done.
You've got the gift. Yeah.
Yes.
I do. Hallelujah. I do, definitely.
I heard about hill farmers with the sheep doing that with lambs that were like stillborn, swinging them round, getting them by the ankles and swinging them round to get the blood to go to the head and reviving them.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. You've the thing is, this is one of the things we've got these rare breed pedigree sheep, and what I'm about to tell you doesn't affect you guys, but it looks like next year, acting wise, things will be really taking off, which I can't say too much about. And I just thought, right, we're going to need people here to sort of look after the sheep, and because they are quite special. And but the problem is it's animal husbandry takes a long time to get right. It's okay for people to give you syringes and bandages and show you what to do, but you've actually got to push it, and you've got to be able to do it. For example, when I was lambing, I'm going to be lambing again next year, but when I was lambing the year before last, it was like I'd been on all the courses, right? And I remember being in the shed with one of our sheep, and I just thought, this has been going on for an hour now. I'm gonna have to. So I thought, right, sod it. So I got my gloves in. I got my hand at the back of a and I just thought that both of them are gonna die. So I just yanked it out, and there was blood everywhere. But I thought most people would just panic. I just had to do it, and this is what you've got to do. You've got to do it.
And
oh, they both survived.
Good result.
Oh no, they both survived. One's called Glow and one's called Sweep. But unfortunately, Glow's sniffing around Eden, the big Borray sheep with the massive, beautiful horns, right? And we can't afford for her to have another lamb because it's just it's not going to work. So and oh, by the way, Judith has just sent a message. We'll go to Will now. Judith has sent us a message. She says, "Hiya, I'm here now, right? But she's not online because her husband can't be bothered to give her the iPad before Christmas. So she's going without the classes for this week and next week. And I did promise to get her an iPad because I've been playing Santa recently, but it's not happened, right? Roger passes on his regards. He can't make it this week. Next week will be the last lecture of the year. And then we got two sort of YouTube-y type things going on over Christmas. I'll probably mention next week, you know, about the money side of things, but we'll go there with that then. But what I'm planning to do is a little bit more of a quieter one today, sort of get into a couple of questions that we've mentioned. So we're going to look at the Praxitegus document today a little bit. And there's a land deed thing I want to mention to you guys as well. Somebody mentioned last week about Agricola. Agricola was certainly not in Britain at the time of Boudica. Agricola obviously comes in a decade or so later. And I just, Judith, this is for Judith. Judith wanted me to mention the Yellow Plague, which has implications for the Roman period. If you've never heard of the Yellow Plague, it was a plague that initially hit Wales quite dramatically, right? And it answers a few questions with a few things that I've been talking about on YouTube. Before we go any further, Rumney Jack, Rumney Will. Is he saying anything? Will! Will!
We can't hear you, Will.
We're lip reading. Oh, you're saying that you love me. Yeah, that's okay.
Right,
yeah.
You can hear me now. All right. There's some guys working on my roof, so there's a lot of background noise. So I try and use earphones to drown that out, but it cuts my voice out. Right. The scenery behind me, this is -20 with snow. This is my outside view from my balcony as of this morning.
Wow.
Just a couple of inches of snow, but -20, so it'll curl your teeth.
Yeah.
With icicles on my beard. Interesting thing, I found a publication dated 1743 about York Eboricum ad lectorum from Eniddirin Rippenson. Have you heard of it, Carl?
Well, obviously, I've done a lot about Eboracum and York, but the document's not ringing any fingers. Are they discussing the Roman gateways before they were demolished?
No, it's a complete history of the Roman period plus Saxon and later by this chap. 1743, died in about 1780. It's all written in Latin. So hang on now. Here's a test for you. I've got a test for you. All right. So it's written in Latin. I don't know. I'm not a Latin scholar, so I'm translating the whole thing. It's 80 pages using Google Translate. Okay. And if you can give me 2 minutes, I'm going to read you. I'm going to test your Latin now. Okay.
Oh no! Please don't just do it in English.
Hang on. English second. Propatia sequid carum est, vortemque subire, quam suffere jugam malunt, nec vivere tanti est, sed si Romano tandam prefigere metam imperio feroce modam dignabere Caesar esbatiarum regio quae proxima vestris, finibus in nostro longe protendere gros, terre non temenda plaga et facunda metalis, ex sedat vobis pro pace et federa sunto Cesa adec fodeos poscant qui fodero servant. And in English,
hang on a minute. It sounds as if it's talking about the territories of the Roman world and the conquest and something to do with some of the temples in there. Is that
right,
correct?
for the country, and if anything, and this is written in a prose
Yeah.
format, for the country, and if anything is dear, and to
Yeah.
undergo death, which they prefer to endure the yoke, nor is it worth living, but if at last to set a goal for the Roman Empire, and to deign to set a limit to iron Caesar, there is the Mauritania region, which is near
Yeah.
you, borders and extends far into our fields, a region of land not to be feared and fertile with metals. Let this yield to you for peace and be an alliance. Caesar to these, let those who keep the mines demand an alliance. Actually, in this text, and I've already in the first
Well, I
10
got some of
pages,
it right anyway.
there's Boadicea is mentioned and Severus Suetonius and the Levelin of St. Albans and of Camalundum.
Yeah.
But this is all about York principally, which York features very, as we should recognize, extensively in the Roman world. It wasn't Londinium, it was York. So once I've translated this, I will send you a text file with the Latin and the item and a link so you can enjoy it because it's very good prose.
Good.
Very good prose.
That sounds fantastic, and you're doing a great job, Will. And that was quite entertaining actually, because I don't know if you guys could pick up some of the stuff there, but the Latin you could directly translate into some of the English, and there was some things in there. I didn't get the temple thing right, but that was really good. Excellent. Thank you very much. So what we're going to do now, we're going to start off with a weird little article, and unfortunately I've only got one image of it to do with this article, but it was insistent that we do this week, and Henry from the other doings, let's just see where we go, and there we go. There. Oh, there, a skull. Now, I was sent this, and I was not really sure of how I was going to do this, but the headlines are: archaeologists uncover a haunting warning from the Roman Empire. So with a headline like that, you're thinking, well, what does this mean? What is this? Can anyone work out what's going on? Basically, the reason why the front of the whole skull's gone is because that person's head has been placed on a pike. That's why. It's gone straight through, and it's gone straight through the eye sockets and stuff, and it's gone out. It's smashed out the jaw. That's why it's like that. So this is that explains a lot. So obviously you've got the bridge there for the nose, but that's it. So while excavating an ancient fort on the northern Iberian Peninsula, archaeologists found the shattered remains of a skull.
Carl,
yeah,
you're going very quiet again.
Oh my God, no!
It's just as soon as you started reading that bit, I don't know whether you're turning away or whatever, it just went quiet. It was fine up until then.
Okay, right. So how's that? Is that okay?
Yes, sorry, I switched my mic off.
Right. Okay. You probably keep your mic on just to tell me. So if I keep near this, I don't know. The weird thing was last week, when I was doing this last week on the Wednesday, everybody was fine. So I don't know what this is, but anyway, tell me if I'm going quiet. So here's what you learn about this skull. So while excavating this Iron Age fort in a place known as La Loma, in the northern Spain, basically the Iberian Peninsula, archaeologists found the shattered remains of this skull, and it's quite significant when you think about it. So what they wanted to do was to understand where this skull comes into the context of the archaeology, forensic archaeology. So you could keep this on and start thinking, actually, it looks really interesting, this skull. So when they did genetic analysis, it shows that the skull was male. and that the individual wasn't of Roman birth, the individual wasn't anywhere else in Europe. The person was indigenous to that area of Spain, Cantabria, actually. And so they managed to leach in the DNA to the local area of Cantabria in Spain. So that's interesting that you've got the sort of DNA signature still surviving. So the age of the skull places this around the time that Rome is starting to take this whole area of Spain from the local people, and before that, the Carthaginians. So this is that interesting play of information. So the age of the skull, and as this item is, it's a victim's head, right? So the victim's head has been placed through a spike, right? Basically, it's been raised on some kind of wood, and the spike's gone through there. It's basically been poleaxed. So maybe not thinking about Game of Thrones, but the sense of reflecting history on how people were in a sense of history, and the sense of decapitating heads, skewering them on pikes, displaying them outside gates, this is archaeological evidence of that. So one of the things that we think about in a history is who wrote the history. So when you think about the likes of the Battle of Watling Street, Will mentioned it earlier on, Boudica, how much of that story is true, right? But if somebody's talking about trophy heads, and you've got evidence of a trophy head, then, you know, the history is not complete fantasy, basically. So we do talk about those writing history in regards to the Roman world. The Romans are writing the history as they're heading across the land. And so things like, we know that the Roman armies were known to expose severed heads like this one, hands, feet, and even entire corpses to the elements and onlookers as an intimidation tactic that possibly doubled as a public display of victory. Now, when you look at this context, it takes us somewhere else. When you display human remains, were the people deliberately killed at that point to be human remains, or were they trophies from a battle, i.e. this was somebody's head, it was lying around, they thought, right, we'll stick this on a pike. Yeah. So all of these things can come into play. So Rome relentlessly fought formidable peoples across Europe, and using the word Celtic or Gaulish or whatever. And these warriors in this area, and the Romans were very much into taking over the Iberian Peninsula. When they had taken the Iberian Peninsula, the south of it, away from the Carthaginians by around 200 years BC. So then, slowly but surely, the rest of the Iberian Peninsula is being conquered by the Romans as it meets up with their French, their Gaulish domain. So by the time you get to the likes of Julius Caesar, by the time you get to 58, 57 BC, this whole area is part of the Roman world. So the article does go on, and it's a little bit of a shame that there's no more images, but I'll keep this image up here, and we'll just mention a little bit more. So excavations at the crumbling fort revealed a lone skull. This lone skull, the context of the lone skull, lying between walls that had long since collapsed at the hands of the Roman army under Emperor Augustus. So we're thinking the reason why the skull was found was because at some point this skull was on the defenses, right? And at some point the walls had collapsed, and at some point before coming into the reign of Augustus, maybe about 20 years BC, this skull got buried in the rubble of the fort, and the fort was never to be occupied again. So that's one thing when you look at forensic archaeology. When you find artifacts that are intact, it means that the archaeology hasn't been disturbed. It means that that's the end of history for that piece of archaeology. When you think about Pompeii, and we find the really well preserved archaeology at Pompeii, we know that that moment that we see at Pompeii in AD 79 is the be all and end all of sealing the archaeology for good. So we look at this, and we can see the wonderful play of history and understand it. So Augustus was already aware of the complaints of people from this part of the empire, and it was all about trying to make sure that people are controlled. And when people are complaining about Rome and are basically threatening things, Rome's got to go in there with big time with the Roman legions to sort it out. So the whole point in the reign of Augustus was to make sure that all the gains that Julius Caesar had made, or he was to go in there and he was to basically make sure that in his reign, after the work of Julius Caesar conquering Spain, to make sure that there's no other further rebellion. So going into this part of northern Spain and showing people, I know we're basing a lot on a skull, but there's a point to this. There's a point to this, right? And it's a point that somebody was discussing with me on the internet recently. They said, I put a little video up about the dodecahedrons, those weird little metal things, right? And there's 100 of them across Europe, and people are saying, oh, these are incredibly rare. And I'm thinking, well, how many human remains have been found dating from the Roman era, right? In total, right? And you're thinking that millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of people lived throughout the Roman Empire at many different times. And you're talking about, if you look about the number of human remains that have been found from that period across the Roman Empire, it's probably about 5%, right? So when you think about things like this, right, well, 5% isn't quite a big figure actually, but when you think about this, this is one fragment of many skulls that were treated in this way at one stage. And you just got to think that these weren't rare. These were symbols of Roman control. So what we've got when the Romans are conquering areas, they needed to make sure that those areas like Spain, like Britain, like Germanicus, like Gaul, they utilized their best generals, mobilized many legions, made enormous investments in time and conquest. And the whole point with all of this archaeology is to make sure that we see the evidence in the archaeology to see that Rome was there. So one last thing about this find, and we'll go on to something else in a minute, is the archaeologist Dominguez Solera, who led a team of researchers excavating the La Loma site. Again, if you want to look this up, La Loma site, discovered the skull among the ruins covered in ash. There's another little fact. From a Roman fire, littered with arrowheads, bladed weapons, jewelry, and fragments of armor. So in other words, this was an area of some kind of conflict. And that, my folks, is another thing I wanted to talk to you about. So if we go back into that wording, so the skulls found, there's a destroyed wall, there's charcoal, but we find arrowheads. It's littered with arrowheads. It's littered with bladed weapons and jewelry, fragments of armor. And you're thinking, hang on a minute. If we want to go back and we want to find evidence of the Battle of Watling Street, surely we would find that type of evidence, because this evidence is there. And if we don't find it, did the Battle of Watling Street in regards to the defeat of Boudicca in AD 61 actually take place or not? There's a point there. So he thinks cuts and bruises on many of these pieces are possible evidence of bloody hand-to-hand combat in that area at that time, back in the past. What happened of it was scattered, possibly broken when it fell from collapsing walls of the fort and was then crushed by them. So basically what they've done, they're discussing the skull. It's shattered, it's fallen down, it's broken into pieces. And when these pieces were brought back together in the lab and dated, the age of the skull, aligned with the siege and Loma, put it into the Cantabri walls. And walls, Cantabri walls. So the thing is to try and get an idea of understanding archaeology and trying to put things in so many times in archaeology, you find that, you know, we've got so much written, but we can't find the evidence, and it's trying to work out whether all this stuff happened or not. And the Cantabro Wars in the wars happened in the reign of Augustus, between roughly about at the beginning of Augustus's reign or thereabouts, in 29 BC all the way to 19 BC. So one final thing about this whole article and this piece, if you want to look it up, is without a name or anything close to identifying information, the only way the skull could speak was through physical and genetic analysis. We know that this person was somebody who was beheaded, whether they were alive or dead, but their head was put through a pike. Bone fragmentation made it difficult to figure out an age or sex from physical remains alone. And there's something on that skull that I want to show you in a minute. An assessment of the cranium came up with an age range between 32 to 58 years, which is quite a long range actually. It also became more obvious that the skull had been left outside when the researchers examined damage to the bone, caused by weathering, such as cracking, flaking, splitting, and whitening. Thankfully, the DNA was more intact because the skull had held on to 53% of its DNA. So we're able to work out that the individual that was associated with the skull was local. You know, they were from the Iberian Peninsula. The indigenous people from the Iberian Peninsula, which I think is great that you've got that piece of evidence. And finally, it says here, and there's a little bit of detail, something on that skull I want to show you if you haven't already spotted it. There's something significant.
The hole.
Oh, shut up! That's what I was going to say. But we'll talk about that in a minute. We're going to talk. I'm glad you spotted it, Margaret. That's exactly what I was talking about. So the hole there, the hole. That's an abscess.
Yeah.
So yes, shut up. Yeah, it is. Oh, don't be so girly. It's an abscess. Get over it.
Ooh.
The symbolism of the military trophy was materialized not only in the display of weapons taken from the defended foes, but also in acts of violence. In a Roman context, these punitive acts may have been part of strategies of intimidation rather than ritual practices related to victory or recognition of the courage of enemies as a form of warrior prestige. Heads still haunt the Roman history, right? Egyptians who murdered Pompey the Great on Pharaoh Ptolemy's orders presented his head and ring to Caesar. There you go. After Cicero was executed for being an enemy of the state for his rival with Mark Antony, his dismembered head and hands were displayed. The shattered skull found at La Loma may still keep some secrets, but what was once a trophy is now a reminder that if anyone tried to oppose one of the most powerful empires in the world, heads would quite literally roll. Now, interesting enough, I just wanted to mention that obviously you've got some, you can tell that this is a male because of the way that the head is sort of flat on the base there. But what you've got here, rather than protruding like a female skull, so that's one giveaway. But that is really interesting. And also, you've got a primary. Start again. Let me get that. You've got a primary abscess and you've got a secondary abscess. So basically, what's happened is that person was in a lot of pain, right? And actually, interesting enough, I would say that this may have actually led to the person's death, and then the person body was beheaded. I don't know. That's me chucking something at it. I don't really know what I'm talking about there, but because I don't know the rest of the evidence. But that there is a primary abscess. So the person lived with this abscess for quite some time, and it ate away at the bone, right? And then what's happened is the abscess have also exploded a little bit further on and actually come through the bone, right? So and that was a really, really painful, right? So that person had probably lived with that abscess for quite some time. I thought I'd tell you that. And I just want, and because you were talking about teeth earlier on, and there's something else about this as well. Can you spot it, Margaret? But before we go on to the next thing, we'll do that thing that that I'm going to do in a minute. When I was a child, my brother had chucked a stone at my face and shattered some of my teeth, right, and knocking out some of my canines and incisors. I didn't know that an abscess was building, and directly at the back of my neck, pressing up back of my neck, directly at the back of my jaw, right, abscess was building, and if it had ruptured, apparently, you know, I would have been in serious trouble. And that was over the course of a few days. So when I went in, they said, right, we're going to try out this novel thing on your teeth, right? It's an experimental a process, right? So what they did, they cut all the nerves in most of my teeth, right? And I didn't know this at the time, so I don't actually suffer from toothache. I don't get toothache. So my teeth could be rotting away and I don't even know, right? Because they did this novel surgery. So when people are in agony because of teeth, it doesn't affect me at all. I have had one toothache in the tooth, but that was because the nerves weren't cut. But yeah, I had this novel surgery that yeah, amazing, isn't it? They did that to us children when we were younger. And look at that there. Margaret, did you spot it? Did you spot that there? It's worn away because the person has had rope in their mouth, right? And they're plaiting it and working rope and they've probably got leather and they're chewing it and making it supple, right? That's exactly what that is.
Wow.
Yeah, because Drina, look, Drina, don't get too jealous, right? But when I'm staring into Michelle's wonderful brown eyes, right, and I'm looking at her as she's actually plaiting, she actually plaits sort of pendants. Michelle makes pendants out of rowan. And she makes these pendants and she's plaiting this and she's got this string in her mouth and she's plaiting it and braiding it. And I was just thinking, yeah, your teeth are going to really wear away quickly. But no, they're not actually. But this is somebody that's you know, you got the lower incisors and the canines. They've just been, you know, they've been sort of, they've had rope in there and they've been sort of breaking down, sort of making leather supple that they can work it. That's what that is.
Are you guessing that, or is that a fact?
That's a fact.
Oh,
That's a fact. That is a fact. Well, oh, okay. No, I'm not guessing it at all. Right. And I'll tell you what, right. Margaret, you and I are going to get personal. Have you ever dated anyone with, well, in the past, have you ever dated anyone with, who smoked?
yes.
Well, basically, if we move in the teeth, right? Somebody that smokes, basically, their jaw goes like that, right? And basically, because this area here is the bit that they got their fag in, and that does actually wear away the teeth. Yeah, it does. That's what happens. But what's happening there is that the lower mandible and the upper mandible, right? That's going to be worn down, right? Because what they're doing is because they're breaking down leather, right? They're sort of making it supple, and they've got rope and string in there, right? And that's what that is. It's a fact.
Wow. I saw a program recently with Bethany Hughes, and she was talking about people that rode camels and fought at the same time.
Yeah.
And part of their jaw was worn away because they had to hold the reins in the mouth.
Yeah, yeah, that's what that is. Yeah, that's it. That's it. You are. I don't think I saw that, but I know that as a fact. It's like when, yeah, that's you're 100% right, because when people are going into battle, they hold their reins because that's the best place to make. That's the best place. You can't hold a rein with knots because it's like it'd rip your teeth out, right? If you have a knot behind your teeth, right, and you had a sudden jolt, that the knot would rip your teeth out. So you can't have a knot in it, but you can have the reins there in your teeth, right, and that's how you're going to ride. I think something like this is fascinating. There's so much information in just a skull, and I think that's great. Whoa. Now we've gone on to something else. So what we did the other week, somebody.
Carl.
Yes.
I missed an awful lot of that because it was so quiet. As soon as
no.
you spoke, it was very loud. I could hear clearly. I don't know whether it's your mic or something, but my hearing isn't good, but I've got hearing aids. I can usually hear fine. But I was struggled last week, and I've struggled again this week.
I don't know what it is. I tell you what. Right. What we'll do. Right. We're gonna move the technology over straight away, and we'll just. I'm gonna have to wing it.
Before you do that, it sounds more like to me that when you're talking in detail about things or reading things, your actual voice is dropping. That you're not as loud. And I think
it comes up occasionally louder, and you hear it, and then it all goes on. I can't hear it. The odd word, I don't get a sentence, so I'm not understanding it.